What's up, Cash Crew, and welcome back to another episode of Cash Talks here at Dude IDK Studios. I'm so excited for today's episode because I have a very special guest and friend with me that I'm just so excited. You all are going to fall so much in love with her already. Please help me welcome today. It is the one and only Veronica, aka V.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining me today and being here. I feel like this has been a long time in the making and just so excited and honored that you decided to join me. So
I'm the one that's honored. It truly means so much that you're having me on here. So thank you.
I love it. I love it. Well, before we get into it today, I just want to give V a moment to kind of tell a little bit about who she is, a little bit about her background, so that you all can get to know her a little better. I know her, and she is running one of the most badass women-ran new workouts here in Denver. Woo! And let me tell you, if you have not been to Bodied yet, you need to get yourself bodied together.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I'm going to let her take it away and give us a little intro to who she is so you all can get to know V a little bit today.
Amazing. Thank you. So I go by V. I've been teaching fitness for 14 years, pretty much in Denver, a little bit out of Denver, but primarily in Denver. I just said Denver 4 times in that sentence.
Denver.
You know where we're at. Anyways, I've kind of taught it all. I mean, obviously we met while I was at SoulCycle, which I'm sure we'll touch on that later because that was iconic.
We'd love to see it.
We'd love to see it. But I've taught indoor cycling, Pilates, Rumble, or boxing, kind of just anything and everything. I love fitness. I am lucky enough to have made a career out of it. I say lucky, but also I've worked my fucking ass off. So
that part.
So that too. But and I finally just hit a point where I was like, you know what? I am ready to create my own method. I wanted to do something in fitness that had never been done before. And then 2, just work for myself.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I know that we can relate with.
Yes.
Bodied opened in August. So we're a mix of step aerobics, Pilates, and strength training. So it kind of gets you a little bit of everything. It's very well balanced. It's super challenging, but it's also very attainable.
Yeah.
And the team that we have there is just, they can't be beat. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Everybody just shows up 1000% every single time. Everyone's so genuine. Everybody cares about everybody. It's become such a very, very special community and place. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but I kind of just went into that right away.
I love that.
A little bit more about me. I'm a Colorado native, which you never find anymore. So there we go. I grew up in Durango, Colorado, small little mountain town. I got a twang there.
This ain't Texas.
Wow.
Oh, we are getting all the way Texas Hold'em today, honey.
Oh my God. Yes, we have to talk about that.
Oh, we do.
I've been in Denver for 15 years, maybe a little bit more. What else about me? I am married. I've been with my husband for, it'll be 8 years in October. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I love music. I love going to see live music. That's
she is a music girl, honey.
I was going to say it's pretty much my entire personality. So
if I ever need to know where V is, I know where she is.
You know where I'm at. Yeah, exactly. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want me to say right now?
No, I feel like that was a good intro. I love that.
Cool.
One thing that I, first of all, want to say just about Bodied in general is before this even came to be, one night V and I were at her apartment / house / condo, all the things.
Yes.
And literally just having a conversation, and you had told me all about this idea and, something that you were looking to step out on your own and do, and just all that was going to go into it. And then the next thing I knew, it was coming together.
Yeah.
So V and I, if you can't tell already by listening to us, we match energy, and our energy is very high.
Very high.
At all times.
Yeah.
And that's why we get along so well. But
absolutely.
but just having that conversation in general, and then to see you take it and run with it and make it yours has been like such a really amazing thing to watch and inspiring for me as someone who also works for themselves. And as we know, that is not easy at all. But kind of like, I guess, explain kind of how Body came to you, how you came up with the name, how just kind of what your idea process was behind building it, I guess.
Yeah. So, like I said, it was very important. So, let me back up a lot. Okay, so when I very first started teaching fitness, like all those years ago, it was my goal to open my own studio. I grew up dancing, so like being in a studio setting in general is just home to me, and it always has been. So I knew from the get-go, like from the very first few fitness classes that I took, that I was like, oh yeah, this is like it for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
it just like, it's cliche, but it like hit me like a ton of bricks right then, that I like knew that was what I was supposed to be doing. So back in the day, I always wanted to open my own fitness studio. And then I kind of like went in and out of that while I was like managing other studios, getting to know the back end. And because it's like, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work that goes into running it that like people don't think about. And that's just like with running any business, obviously. But so I kind of like wavered a little bit where I was like, okay, do I want to do this or do I just want to teach? Because teaching is like my heart and soul.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And connecting with people that way and educating people on their bodies and things like that. So then fast forward to just a few years ago, I think that I really just had a moment. It was multiple moments. And this is kind of like when you and I like first met and started connecting and talking a lot. And it was kind of just like a slow, steady like uptick of like my want and need to do my own thing. And that's that I went back and forth because it's scary and I was like very uncertain. And it's also like you ask yourself all the questions like, why do I think I can do this? Like, you know what I mean? Like all this stupid shit that we ask ourselves.
The self-doubt always.
Exactly. When we're just like taking ourselves down. So I remember distinctly my husband Johnny and I were on a road trip back to Durango. This was July of 2022, I think. And it was literally one of those moments where like we were just, you know, just having conversations about life, about work, about, you know, goals, things like that. And it was truly like I just remember he was driving and he looked at me and he was like, do you think it's time that you just like do your own? And I was like, yeah. And for the first time, it was me just saying yes without being like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so I'll never forget that moment. It was like 7 a.m. We're just like in the middle of nowhere, like whatever. But then that whole drive after that was like just conversations about what it was going to be, exactly what the name was going to be, things like that. And so the funny thing is that the name, so I had my personal training business already, which I called Body by V. And so the name for Bodied, literally I said it once in the car and I was like, that's it. Like
that is the name.
That's it. And he was like, well, what about a couple other ones? And I was like, no, babe, that's it. And it was very, it was just obvious to me. One, I love how like sassy it is. You know, two, I think that it's kind of like badass. It's empowering. It's just like simple, short, to the point. Like you fucking know what it is. I also,
and trust me, you get bodied. Okay.
You do get bodied. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I also didn't want my name tied to it, like as much as it is like, you know, yours. What I created it to be. It was very important to me that it was like a team effort. Like I always knew that I wanted a strong team. I've always known that I wanted to expand. Like it was never just going to be about me. So Bodied kind of took Body by V and just like shortened it and was just like boom. You know what I mean? So the name was just like very obvious to me, even though I had never thought about it until that point. It was literally like he asked me and I was like, Bodied. And then I was like, I love how it sounded. I love how it made me feel when I said it. So yeah.
Well, and like from its inception too, like I love the fact that you have taken it and said like, you know what? Who run the world? Girls. Like, and it's literally so amazing that you have taken it and it's ran by all women, which is like
Totally.
so dope and so exciting. And I guess like my question would be, was that always what you saw the vision for it being, was women led, or like kind of like what did that look like for you?
I think we were actually just having this conversation the other day. Like, I am wanting and am completely open to having men come in more and like hopefully one day like teach, you know what I mean? Like that would be amazing. And I think that like it brings a different energy, it brings a different dynamic, which like I'm all for. That said, I think that the way that it started with just being all women is how it was meant to be.
Right.
1000%.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why we're at where we are already, because it's, you know, it's a small team. Like for the longest time, it's only been like 5 of us,
Right.
like myself plus 3 other instructors and then our manager.
Right.
And now we're like getting ready to bring a couple more people on, which is so exciting. But it's been like super small, super tight knit. Like everybody was there like during the summer when we were doing our build out, like helping me like scrub the fucking floors,
Yeah.
like, you know, like put up like weird like hanging shit in the walls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's been very, very like, how do I say this? Like a collective energy with all of
Absolutely.
us.
Yeah.
And I like stand by, or I stand behind my decision to start with all women for sure.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah.
That said, though, like I am completely open to having men come in. Too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and that just starting from the beginning, you know, starting with that process is just something so special and unique to, I think, who you are as a person and the way that you just operate and want to build up and empower other women, which I feel like that energy is there from the jump, like the moment that you walk in. And, but even just like in meeting you in general, kind of going back a little bit, is like we met actually through me coming to Soul Cycle and like I think had mutual friends that kind of connected us and that whole thing. And I think like even seeing your energy and your process from that time to even to where you are now is so like wild to see, you know? And like maybe you can walk us through a little bit of maybe where your head was at the time that you were doing, you know, the cycling and working at Soul Cycle, and kind of where that transition happened where you were like, you know what, I'm ready for this. Like, this is my time now. Like kind of where your head was at during that time.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of just nailed it on the head.
Yeah.
When we met at Soul and like my time at Soul, I loved it. It was very transformative for me. I feel like I really came into my own there, or like during my time there. I felt like I learned a lot about myself. I felt like I learned a lot about the leader that I want to be, how I strive to make people feel, all of those things. And Soul was like always a goal of mine. It was always my dream. It was like the pinnacle for me for like the longest time, like in fitness, like, and you know, it's a well-known brand. It's like at the top of the industry, and they have been for a while, and like rightfully so.
Right.
So it was very important for me to teach there and grow there and just kind of like get my footing there in a new way, I guess. But that said, like I feel like towards the end of my time there, I think that because I had stepped into who I wanted to be / who I am / like who I know I'm capable of being, and like all of the things that come with those things, it just started to wear on me that I was like, one, I just felt like, and this is in no way trying to like take down anything.
No, yeah.
But like I just felt like I wasn't really valued. I felt like I wasn't really seen. And I think that I just hit a point where I was like, you know what? I believe in myself now, and I know what I'm capable of, like without a doubt.
Yeah.
And because of that, I feel, although it was scary,
Absolutely.
I felt ready to step away and kind of like venture into the unknown of like doing your own thing and actually like really trusting yourself to get you there, which is like the hardest fucking thing in the world.
Yeah.
And it's so scary and it's so terrifying. And That's why, you know, a lot of people don't necessarily do it because it's you have no idea what's going to happen. Like, yes, like you trust in yourself, but like even on the hard days when you kind of don't, like you still have to.
You have to.
You don't have a fucking choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like also now, like for me personally, like I have a team that I am leading. You know what I mean? So it's like even on the hard days, like when I wake up and I'm like, I'm not feeling inspired, I'm not feeling motivated, I'm not feeling like whatever, because we all have those days. We're human.
Yeah.
I am still like, one, I fucking believe in Bodied. Two, this isn't just about me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like people are showing up there because like it's a safe space for them. They're working through something. Like they need like to like lighten their energy in some sense or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for me, like in the act of leaving and creating Bodied, it was very much me being like, okay, I haven't been feeling inspired anymore. And I was ready and willing to take the risk to like re-inspire myself.
Absolutely.
I think.
Well, and I feel like, you know, from just meeting you from the very beginning, you have always been about taking risks. Like it's never been about like, you know, I might fall. That's a very, you know, probable thing that could happen. Or, you know, even if I do, I know that I'm going to get back up every single time. And like before we even started recording today, I was kind of telling you about some struggles that I've been going through. And it's like, it is that ebb and flow. It is that unknown. It's that period of like, am I going to succeed? Am I going to fall flat? Am I going to be able to pay my bills? You don't know. There's so many unknowns. And I think when you come into a place where you know that you're putting value and worth into something that you really want, it comes with all the other downsides that a lot of people don't get to see. It's like they get to see you on social media or they get to see you perform or do or work and do your thing, but they don't understand or are actually getting to see what all goes into that and all the doubts that come. And, you know, I feel like at some of the times that I've wanted to give up the most, that is like where the test comes in. Because it's like, if you give up now, what was all this for?
Exactly.
And like, what would be the purpose of giving up at this stage, you know? But you do have those days where you're like, this just isn't working for me. Or like, I would almost rather go flip a burger at McDonald's and make some money right now, you know? But it's like, it is that trust and belief in yourself that I think we've always shared together of knowing that like, no matter what happens at the end of the day, like somehow, some way, we're going to succeed, you know?
Yes.
And being in that place of, you know, really trusting and believing in you. And I think one of my favorite memories of you and us doing Soul Cycle was like, that was another time where you were like taking a risk to do something with a local drag queen where we did like full blown like rides where I was performing during class and like all of that. And I feel like that all falls into the risk taking because that could have easily been something that people were not here for, but you were like, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like, we're going to fucking try it because I think what it comes down to too is just like, if you think something's dope and if you think something is like worth like sharing, just fucking try.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like the worst is going to happen is like, maybe it falls flat. Like maybe people don't connect with it. And in that sense, like whatever, like ideally, hopefully like you still had a good time.
Right.
Like doing whatever it was, you know what I mean? So I think that like risks, like taking risks for me is something that terrifies me. Like it terrifies me to my core. That said, I think that I put on a really good show of like being like, I'm a fucking bad bitch. You know what I mean? Because that's how I like to live my life.
Yeah.
That's how I like to live my life.
Yeah.
Like, even though I'm scared, I've never been the person that's gonna just like be like, I'm not gonna do it because I'm scared.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
And usually not even usually, all the time I will learn something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and like, you know, V and I will casually meet up every now and then and get coffee and go for walks,
Yeah.
which I fucking love
That's
because
my
we just
favorite.
chat life.
Yeah.
But like we've had that conversation before too of like we, you know, lover or hater, Kim Kardashian, whatever. Like
Yeah.
always one of the biggest things she says is I don't do something unless I'm scared of it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's like that is so real and so
Totally.
true. Like I said, lover or hater, but like it is such a thing of that plays out in your life, especially being an entrepreneur, especially being someone who says like, you know what, I don't know if this is gonna work out, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for it anyways. And it's in those moments that you really, I think, get tested to see if like you're really committed to this life that you say that you want, you know? And so many of us in so many different ways do want to go out on our own and do want our own like opportunities to work for ourselves and do that. But no one is really, at least I don't think, no one really knows what that looks like unless you've done it.
Yeah.
And that is like a very, very scary and interesting place to enter into as well, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like also one thing that I wanted maybe you to go in depth on a little more is like what it has been like, because we live in a world ran by men, correct? You know, and like it's
absolutely.
just, it's a man's world still at this point in time. Hopefully there will be a time where there's some change in that. And I feel like there are ways that that change is being made. But as a woman in the fitness industry, as a woman in your just life in general, what has kind of been either the struggles that you face being a woman to get to where you are, or do you think that's played into anything that you've endured?
Yes.
Like, what does that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, that was honestly throughout this entire process, I think one of my biggest lessons that I've learned. And here's what I'm going to say about it, and then I'll go into detail. It was really hard for me. That's been like a really tough lesson to learn, but it's one of the lessons that I'm the most thankful for because I feel like night and day a difference in just who I am and how I present myself and how I handle conflict, how I like, you know, have to deal with like being assertive and things like that. So what I will say is, yeah, it's really hard to be taken seriously. And not by everybody.
Yeah.
Like I want to start out by saying that like this is not like a generalized statement.
Right.
Like no, like under no circumstance.
Yeah.
However, I have experienced it 1000% where it's like something as simple as, you know, when we were still in our build out process,
Right.
Like following up with the contractors, like asking like what the timeline is, like any updates, just anything.
Yeah.
Right. And I will start out by saying like, I am definitely kind of like I'm a very intense person
And
I'm
very assertive.
very, yeah. Yeah. But I also, that's a newish thing for me.
Yeah.
That's a newish thing for me. And I'm proud of it now.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
so fucking proud of it
Yeah.
and I own it. And like, that's what I was meaning is I'm very thankful that I've gotten to this point.
Yeah.
But because I had to be, you know what I mean? Because it got to the point where like nobody was emailing me back. Nobody was answering my fucking question. Nobody was taking it seriously when I was like, you guys, I have now been out of work for 6 months thinking that like this should have been done. We should have been open months ago. And that said too, I understand the city situation. There's a delay, like yada, yada, whatever. Like we all know about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not like placing blame, but it was a process.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, like I didn't want to do this because I will say like, I do have an attitude and sometimes it can kind of like run wild. And I know that about myself and I
Admitting it.
I admit it. I own it. It's something that I have to like check quite often.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to have to go there. You know, I was being professional. I was doing all the things. Like my dad's a contractor. Like I like kept like running things by him. I was like, is this normal? Like what, you know what I mean? Like, is this to be expected? And yeah, I finally was just like, I remember specifically, I had this one moment where the response that I got from one of my questions on like the timeline thing or construction matter was just so vague and so unhelpful and so just like there was zero sense of urgency and zero just like care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as a human one, as like that's your job to like give me information and you're doing a poor job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember like I had that moment and I said something to Johnny. I went off. I like lost it.
Yeah.
And Johnny, I'm very much
I
like
could see
this.
this
Yeah.
happening.
And Johnny is very, I mean, you've met him once
Yeah.
or twice. Like he's
Yeah.
like very calm
Yeah.
and like very grounding and all of that. And so like, not to say that he wasn't irritated too by the whole situation, because obviously he was.
Yeah.
And he like more than anything, like felt for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he was like, okay, I think that we just need to like kind of, you know, put together a response that's going to feel like a little bit, you know, obviously professional, like grounded, like not attacking them, like things like that. And I was like, here's the thing. I am in no way, shape, or form attacking anyone.
Right.
Like, I have tried to be calm. I have tried to be grounded. I have tried to bite my tongue and like go along with it and give them the benefit of the doubt. And it wasn't working, you know? And so, and I'm very professional and I hold myself to that. And I'm proud of that in myself. And I know that about myself.
Yeah.
But I looked at him and I was like, I am done being nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I drafted an email where I was just very assertive. And I was like, listen, this is just like unacceptable. I feel like you're not taking me seriously. I feel like you're not listening to me. I feel like you literally just don't care.
Right.
You know? And I was like, and all I was asking is for an update or for like communication as to like what the holdup is or what's taking so long, things like that. So yeah, like in all of that, I definitely became more assertive.
Yeah.
I definitely learned that it truly is true. I think that like when women are assertive, a lot of times it comes off as, oh, she's a bitch, you know? And I'm like, I will say I can be a bitch.
Right.
Like in these circumstances, I was not.
Right.
I was professional.
Yeah.
I was assertive.
Yeah.
I was standing up for my team, for my business, for my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think now like that kind of what lives in my head when I am faced with something like that is I'm like, okay, I have this whole team behind me that's trusting me to like lead us through whatever the struggle is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not about me.
Yeah.
But also you need to take me seriously and like understand that I know what I'm talking about. And if I don't, I'm asking you questions and I'm asking you to give me an answer so that I can learn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been an interesting learning objective with it all.
Yeah.
I feel like, but hindsight, like I'm very, very thankful and proud of like how I've come through that on the other side.
Yeah. Well, and like I love watching empowering women. Like I love watching documentaries. I love watching like, you know, J-Lo, Beyonce, all of the like bigger names in their documentaries, Lady Gaga, all of them. Cause I get a lot of inspiration from that. But what I notice in you talking and them talking is that same thing where, you know, the men that are trying to either build the business or help out with the business, they don't listen or they gaslight them or they like don't, you know, they're not paying attention in the way that they need to be because to you, you know, they're the hierarchy in their head, you know what I mean? And that's what I've continued to notice over time and like watching, you know, other women build who they are and build their businesses up is it's met with so much flack and like, why are you not taking me seriously? Like this would be so different if we were equals, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's crazy to see and to watch that like continually like manifests itself. And I know for you, like you are very big on like, I'm not going to repeat myself. You know what I mean? Like you are very that kind of like, I need an answer and I need it now. And like for whatever reason that doesn't always come across. And I've feel like I've noticed that over time. But it's also amazing that you've been able to like ride that wave and realize like, you know what? No, you are going to listen to me. And like, you know, at the same time, you could have a partner that, you know, or, you know, a husband that would be like, don't say anything, like, let me handle it. But also giving you the reins to run your business the way you want to run it too.
Totally. And that was my next point. Like there were quite a few times in the very beginning when I mean, I still was very uncomfortable, like standing up for myself and, you know, in any way and like saying things or asking for things that I needed. And I would kind of just like defer to Johnny and be like, will you just do this? You know? And, you know, it was a part of my journey.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything else about like it in that way.
Yeah.
But I think that once I saw that, you know, I would send an email, it would go unanswered.
Yeah.
Johnny would send an email, they'd respond. And like once I really like started to get that, I was just kind of like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like I'm done. And so I remember like having that conversation with Johnny where I was like, listen, I am always going to be professional. I'm always going to like stand up for the business. I'm also just to the point where I refuse to let people walk all over me. I'm like, you will hear me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you will respond in the necessary fashion. And again, it's like, even if it's something that I don't want to hear, tell me so I can respond to it. So I can like, you know, course correct. So I can adjust whatever it needs to be adjusted. But like, don't just not respond to me.
Right.
And then respond once I'm a bitch. You know what I mean?
Like, why did it have to go to that point for you to respond?
Yeah.
Well, and another thing I wanted to ask you that maybe you could shed light on to people that are listening in general and other women that are listening is like, is there like any specific advice to like other women that you would have as someone who has kind of started their own business and as someone who has been through the struggles and faced a lot of adversity trying to do so? Like, is there something that you would say to other women that may be in the same place in their life where they're whatever the industry is that they want to do or accomplish? Like, are there things that you might say to them that would be like helpful in that process at all?
I think more than anything, and I've actually been thinking about this a lot as of recently, I think more than anything, like, you just have to stay true to your vision for whatever the business is, whatever the situation is. Because it's yours, right? Like, it's your business, it's your vision coming to life, it's your dream, it's your goal, it's your whatever it is. Like, it is nobody else's. Like, it is your responsibility to see it through how you see fit. So in saying that, like, you have every right to make it happen however you need to. You know what I mean? And like, I think that more than anything, it truly is just advocating for yourself.
Absolutely. And
standing up for yourself. And like, I think just really standing your ground and, you know, I guess basically just being like, I deserve to be heard. I deserve to have a seat at this table, whatever the table is. You know what I mean? And you just have to really believe in that because there are times where it's really hard to do that. And it is like, I definitely had a few times where I was like, I'm doing this what? Like, I think that I can like argue with these people. Like, I don't fucking know what they're talking about construction wise. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know what the plumber needs to do.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because like that's not your scope of practice, right? But you need that to get done in order to do whatever it is that you want to do, that you're dreaming of doing, that is like your process. You know what I mean? So I think really just like you have to stand your ground.
Well, and like one thing that you mentioned that stuck out to me was like, you know, sometimes you have to build your own seats at the table. You know what I mean? And part of that process, regardless of what you're going out and doing, there are a lot of people that get up from that table and walk away from you. Or there are people that can't go with you where you're going. And I know that, you know, we've both faced that. There's totally like people on that journey that you're like, oh, I want to bring you with me. I want you to go where I'm going. And it's like that continuation of like, I want to bring you on this journey. And no matter how much further you try to like pull them in, it just goes against you because that person can't go with you on that journey. And I know that you've kind of faced that as well in other areas where like maybe people that you thought would be riding with you at this point aren't there, you know?
Yeah.
But then it made room for those, you know, seats that are not taken to now be filled with people that are supposed to be there, which I think is like the other point that you've been able to let in from letting go of a lot of other things.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like that's such a good way to say it. Like you do have to be ready and willing, and it is the hardest thing in the world to let go. Let go of people, let go of things, let go of like ideas. Because hanging on to all of that is just taking up space that like the right things won't be able to make their way to you because you're hanging on to these things that aren't fueling you, that aren't pushing you forward, that aren't supporting you, that, you know what I mean? That aren't like seeing the end goal with you the same way. And that's okay. Like everyone's journey is so different.
Yeah.
That's what I've come to learn too is although there were people that like I thought would be by my side. There were people that I could have sworn would have like been there throughout anything. And I am somebody like I hold on really, really tight to things. Like letting go of shit is like very hard for me.
I am right there with you.
Yeah,
that is
like
my struggle.
It's so hard. Like anything under the sun. And so that for me was a big area of growth where I just had to kind of be like, as hard as it is, and I know it's going to take me time because I'm also somebody where like change is really hard for me. You got to give it the time and you've got to like slowly just start to move away from it and move towards what is actually meant for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, you know, in you touching on letting go, that piece of life is one of the most difficult areas to walk through because it's like this, it's almost like you're in this constant grieving of a person or a business, a job, of something that you always thought would be there. And it is that constant like, wow, the higher I climb for what I want and the further I go with this, like it's like people drop like flies. And it's like it's one of the toughest things to go through, especially as people who are, it's hard for us to let go, you know? And like, but to your point, you have to be willing to let go and allow the people that are meant to make their way towards you do that. Because if you keep pulling the same old people with you, that stunts your growth, not theirs. You know what I mean? It stunts where you're going at the end of the day.
Well, and it's like, I feel like it's so true too, where there are certain people in your life that are there for like the long run. You know what I mean? Like 1000%.
Yeah.
But there are also people who are only around for like a specific season. And I think that that's okay too.
Yeah.
I think that like in those moments, recognizing that, and sometimes you recognize it after the fact, right? Like it's hard to see it in real time. But what I can say is I'm at a place now where I just feel so aligned. And that's not to say that like there aren't still struggles and I don't still like have, you know, self-doubts and shit like that. But like, I do feel so aligned in just what I'm doing. And just like the path that my life is on. And now being here after being so uncertain for so long and so just like, God, what the fuck am I doing? Everything just like makes sense. And like, maybe that sounds so cheesy and cliche and whatever, but it's like, that's how I feel. Like now, like living here, I'm like, I think about a certain situation or a certain person or like a certain something that like didn't work out. And I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
Like
that makes sense.
Like no fucking wonder that didn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and like one of the things that you have always been so adamant about in all of your classes that I've taken and been a part of, and just being a part of your life in general, is like you bring something into the class, into the space that is like, you know what? You're not going to half-ass show up for anything. Like, the moment that you step into your classes, it's like you said, you're going to take up space. You're here for a reason. I'm going to make sure that you get something out of this because you didn't just show up as a mistake. And I feel like you are so adamant and clear about that process all the time. And I have seen it where people are kind of like taken aback, you know, after a class or like something where they're like, whoa, like if you're listening, there have been times where I have walked out of V's class and I've been like, I think I could go run for president at this point. You know what I mean? Like, you can do whatever, but you are so like real about that. And you're so about taking up space and not playing small and allowing yourself to really take up what you need to. And I guess like, where did that space come from for you?
Yeah. Dude.
Because it's huge. Okay.
It's like, that's truly just something that is so important to me, to get people to feel and to get people to like really believe that in themselves and really like act that way and live that way. And it's not to say that like you can do it every single minute of every single day because again, we're human, like shit goes wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But for me personally, and it's so funny because nobody believes me when I say this now, but I was like so shy when I was younger. So
I'm laughing because that's hilarious.
Like so shy. I mean, like I was just so quiet. Like my parents like forced me into dance to be like, you need to make friends. Like you need to like do something. Yeah. Yeah. But it lived with me for a long time. Like in high school, I was pretty shy still, even like into like my early 20s. And I think that because of that, and that was very much like a me thing, right? Like I don't know. I felt like I could only really open up to people once I like really, really knew them and really trusted them. And I know that a lot of people feel that way. And I think that as a human, that's a good way to be. Like obviously like open up to the people that you trust, like lean on them, like, you know, so on and so forth. But I think that like because of my quiet nature back in the day, I let people look me over. And I kind of like, I was always kind of just like pushed to the side. And I don't think that I realized how much it actually bothered me for the majority of my life, honestly. I think up until like the last like 3 or 4 years is when it started to click in my mind that I was like, why the fuck am I letting people look me over? Why the fuck am I just like sitting in the corner, like playing it small when I know what I'm capable of? You know what I mean? Like, why? Yeah. And again, what it comes down to is it's like, I was letting that happen. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think for me, like when I realized that and when it just kind of like was like my big aha moment with it all, I was like, never again for me personally, like never, ever, ever again will I feel that way. And in doing that and realizing that and coming into that power like on my own, it's become a part of like what I love that I get to do in Bodied and what Bodied has become, but also just like in how I live, like in how I approach relationships. Like I am all about empowering people because it's like life is too fucking short to just like feel small and let people just like push you around and like walk all over you and just make you feel anything other than like what you can actually be. You know what I mean? And I think that that's like what I fell in love with teaching group fitness. Was for me, like that is my direct channel to get people to feel that. Right. You know what I mean? Right.
And we share that in common because that's what drag is for me.
Exactly.
Like, it's a feeling thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's something that is so important to me. And I know that you feel the same way. And I also just like, I don't settle for like people not believing that in themselves. Right. And that said, it's a process. It's a journey. Like everybody gets there on their own time. 1000%. It has to do with, you know, your childhood, your past traumas, like everything that we've all gone through as humans. And like nobody knows exactly what that's like for anybody else. Right. But that is like a pillar of what I strive to help people feel now because it's so important.
Yeah. And it's that empowerment piece that really, you know, lifts people forward and gives them that confidence and that light to be able to walk forward in what they are and who they are. Because I feel that same kind of energy where like it is so hard to feel like the outcast. It is so hard to watch people overlook you, to watch people treat you like shit, to like pretend like you're nothing. You know what I mean? And I've been walking through that in my own life lately of like realizing that like so many people are doing that to me. And that piece of like you can either tap into that and become and settle to what they want you to be within their limits, or you can step into your power and be exactly who you are meant to be and create what you're meant to create. And one thing that I was telling a friend of mine the other day is like, you know, even if no one else that you think should be showing up for you is not showing up for you, show up for yourself.
Yeah.
And that is something that you are so clear about in how you live your life is like, it doesn't mean that anyone else has to do it. You just have to do it for you. Period.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, I mean, you literally said it like word for word, is it doesn't fucking matter what other people are thinking.
Yeah.
Even if they are like your people, even if they're like one of your core people, and it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's truly like you just have to do life the way that your soul comes on fire, becomes on fire.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that saying?
Yeah.
Well, lights your soul on fire.
Lights your soul on fire. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and like speaking of showing up for yourself, like I know for me, we get up in front of people all the time. We talk in front of people all the time. It's just, you know, what our careers are. So like on those days that you're struggling, what is it that you tap into to make sure that you're still either giving yourself that energy to give to other people, or like for me, there are my go-to songs.
Yeah.
That is like where I land. Like if I'm having that struggle day and I know I got to go do a show, like it's like that's what I directly go to, and it's like boom. And that doesn't mean that it's going to change my mood completely,
right?
But it might lift it up to do what I need to do. So I was wondering, like, as a fitness instructor and as someone who does have to give and put out there like crazy, like what do you kind of tap into to show up?
Yeah, well, again, music for me is obviously huge too. So same, like I definitely have my songs on my playlist that just like make me feel good. And like some of them too aren't even just like empowering, like baddie songs. Like some of them are just songs that just like hit me in my fucking heart.
Yeah.
And it just by doing that, I feel grounded. I feel at peace. I feel kind of like, I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm having an off day, but like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then I can come home and like do whatever the fuck I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So another thing like is, and this is whatever, like superficial, but it works for me, is like put on a fucking cute outfit. Like make yourself feel good.
Yeah.
You know, in some way.
Yeah. Look good, feel better. There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. Look good, feel better. Exactly.
Yeah. Hashtag look good, feel better.
Yeah. Or like, this is, I think, like very bodied specific, but this is what I love about us.
Yeah.
Like these cute little gems.
Yes.
Like put on your like glitter.
Glitter.
You know what I mean? Like
glitter.
Sparkle it the fuck up.
Yeah. Which is like, I love glitter as a queen. I love glitter.
I love
like,
glitter.
Like
exactly.
what the hell?
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, and one other thing I wanted just to ask in general is where did the vision for Bodied come from? And is that vision now coming to fruition from where you're seeing it now? Like, have you seen that full vision that you had? Like, I don't know if you had a dream about Bodied. I don't know if you like just thought about it one day and then that's where it came from, or like, what did the vision come about, and like, is it being executed at this point, do you think, for Bodied?
Do you mean like Bodied as a whole, or like aesthetic purposes, or what?
As a whole, like, do you feel like it's meeting where you saw it in your head?
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I have that conversation with people a lot because I'm a visualizer. Like I'm very much somebody who believes in visualization. Like I do it with literally everything,
Yeah.
with my entire life.
Yeah.
And so with Bodied specifically, you know, I had all these ideas. I had all these, you know, things of like how I thought the studio would look, how I thought like the music would sound, how I thought like it would look in a class with like people moving together.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is not only like matching that and hitting that, but it's like gone above and beyond already, which is so fucking cool to see.
Yeah.
And like I'm so proud. One, I'm so excited for like what it is, what it has been, and then
the
like
growth.
what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it's something that vision wise, like I had all these visions, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm somebody where like I don't necessarily have a plan to like bring the vision to life. Like I didn't sit down and be like, okay, I visualize this. So in order to do that, I need to like do this, do this, do this.
Yes.
Like that's not how my brain works.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of just like, okay, I see it and I kind of like internalize like what needs to be done and like come up with ideas along the way.
Yeah.
And then I was like literally just thinking about this earlier. I was just like in the studio by myself, like doing some like fixing of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like looking around and I was like, holy shit, this just like came to life out of my brain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's how I feel about this podcast.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
literally how I feel. It was
Yeah.
literally sitting there as a thought.
Totally.
Yeah, those moments are wild.
They're so wild. But it's like, I feel like when you have those moments,
Yeah.
that's the universe being like, yeah, bitch,
Yeah.
you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
doing what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like even sitting here is like this like euphoric thing right now with you because I
know.
already saw it before it was
Same.
a thing.
Same.
And I think that's how you're feeling about Bodied too. It's like
Yes.
you already saw it all coming together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it actually did, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But that doesn't go without saying that it took a lot of fucking hard work to make it
Totally.
happen, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, again, like I just believe in the power of visualization.
Yeah, same.
Like so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, like I do it all the time.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I will just do it. And about like random shit
Yeah,
too. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like I'll think like 3 years down the line, like something like cool about like something specific that I want in my house.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
just like shit that like maybe doesn't matter like in the moment.
Right.
But it matters in like your whole grand scheme of just like how your life's unfolding.
Absolutely.
You
yeah.
know?
It's almost like for me, sometimes I feel like I have those That's So Raven moments where I just like completely zone out
Yes.
and like see a full
Yeah, you're just
vision.
like-
Yeah. I see like, whoa. And everyone around me is like, where'd you go? I'm like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You'll find out later.
You'll see. Yeah, you'll see.
When we're sitting here on the couch, you'll find out later. But I do
Exactly.
have those moments where you
Yeah.
just kind of like zone out, see a vision, see things come to fruition. And then before you know it, you're like, damn. It's like,
Yeah.
like I was looking down on my TikTok yesterday and I started this as like doing little videos on TikTok in August of last year, way before I even thought about executing it.
Oh
So
my
to
God.
now like see it. come
Yes.
to- it's like, it's wild.
It's
like
so
those
cool.
moments are crazy. But
Exactly. Well, and like I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day where I was like, again, those are moments where it's almost good to be a little bit, I feel like delusional gets like a bad rap.
Yeah.
But I feel like in scenarios like this where you're almost like delusional in the dream that you have for yourself or for like whatever vision, whatever path, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, of course you have to be a little bit delusional to like put it into the fucking universe to
Right.
like start making the things happen.
yeah. And you,
know?
have to meet the vibration of it.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like it's more than just like thinking it. You've got to actually like start to execute the things that lead you there.
Totally.
You know? Like
Yeah.
what that and I feel like I'm totally delusional and I'll admit it. I don't
Oh my
care.
God, me too.
I'm
I
like,
love being
absolutely-
delusional. I would like prefer to be delusional.
Honestly, how can I live
Yeah.
my life there every day?
Exactly, yeah.
But a lot of people, that's scary to them because they're
Totally.
like, well, what if I fail? And the answer to that is, what if you fail?
Exactly.
Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
What's the worst that's going to happen?
Totally.
You
But
know?
what if you're like 15 years down the line
Mhm.
and nothing has fucking changed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's scarier.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And like, I'm a person who like writes out what I want and I look at it almost probably twice a day, but definitely once a day. Because I'm like, if I'm looking at this and that's really what I want to happen and see it come to life, then that's what I'm going to do, you know?
Exactly.
And that goes back into being a little delusional, and that's okay.
Yes, I know. I stand by that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one other like question that I had for you that might be a little pageant question that might be a little deep, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But one question I had was you've talked to me about this before, but like also just in general and even on this podcast, like about being someone who was very shy growing up and someone who, you know, was kind of in the background and didn't really understand who they were, what they wanted, or where they were going. So like, what do you feel like, and here's the pageant question.
Oh my God, I'm
what
ready.
do you feel like you could say to that version of V now, knowing where you're sitting today? Like knowing that you went through that and that you journeyed through that, and you can probably even like still see her at times, you know?
Totally.
And like, what is that like now to know, you know, that you journeyed to get to who you are today?
Yeah.
I know it's a deep one.
It's a deep one. I like it. It's making me think a lot.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, I have like two things.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, one is trusting the process and the journey and just like the becoming of your life and who you are, because again, like kind of touching on what we talked about earlier, like looking back now at the way that everything went down and just like all of the different, you know, streams of life that like have brought me here.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, that played into this, which played into this, which played into this, which is like happening now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like if I hadn't have learned this back then, I wouldn't be able to like assert myself in this way. You know what I mean? So I think number one is trusting it all.
Yeah.
And even when it feels like, what the fuck am I trusting in?
Right.
You know, because we all have those like super low moments where it's like, what is this for?
Yeah.
What am I feeling this
Why am I
for?
here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Like, why am I even like trying to do this? Like, exactly. Why am I here? So really trusting in that. And just like, when I say trust, it truly has to be like a full body, soul, like everything, just like go with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like go with it.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is, hold on, I think I forgot it. Let me bring it back.
You're like, let me round it back together.
Let me run it back because I had it.
Yeah.
Okay. So trusting. I think the other thing is like, how do I say this? I think like, and I don't mean this in a certain way. And I think you'll understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Wait your turn.
Oof.
You know, because
preach.
Yes, because like, here's why. Like if I would be trying to do what I'm doing now, even 5 years ago, God forbid, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, it just wouldn't be. It wouldn't be because and again, like I've always been somebody who like, I've honestly always liked myself. Like I've never struggled with things like that. Like I've always been like, although I was shy and quiet, like I always like was pretty confident who I am.
Yeah. You had the self-love piece there.
Exactly. Yeah. But that said, like I would have had no idea how to run a team. And that said, like I'm still learning. I'm still growing as a leader. I'm still developing into like the leader that I want to be.
Yeah.
But I would have had no idea how to do that.
Yeah.
I would have had no idea how to deal with like difficult situations or how to assert myself. Again, like that was like a pretty new thing for me.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't be what it is.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be what I know that it can be.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like in all of that time while I was waiting my turn, this was all developing and this was growing like deep within. And even though I maybe like didn't know it in the moment, like the universe knew it. And this was like how it was supposed to unfold. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I say wait your turn, I'm like basically saying trust in divine timing.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't rush the process of it. Like rushing it isn't going to get you there any faster.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And a lot of times when you do rush it, it doesn't turn out the way that you want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like there are like little bits and pieces that maybe like could have come together a little bit better, or if you had more time to actually like put into those.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Those touching points were almost exactly what I thought you would have said. And I love that.
Yeah,
I
you
love
know me
that.
so well.
I love that. But well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, because I feel like bringing you on today was, again, a vision that I had, and it finally came to fruition. And like having you on here to talk about, you know, the things that you've journeyed through and the things that you have gone through just to get to where you are today is truly inspiring. And I don't just say that as your friend, but I say that as like, that's totally true to so many people other than myself. So
Thank you.
it's so inspiring to see. And one thing that I do ask everyone as like a closing wrap up thing is being on this podcast, Cash Talks, like if money wasn't a factor to you, if that wasn't something that we all had to have to survive, like how would cash talk in your life? Like what would you do? What change would you make? What thing would you take forward in your own life to maybe speak on your level of whatever that would be? So like if money were not a factor, what would you do? And it can even be where you are now too.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot. And I will say I'm very happy with where I am now.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like it's truly where I'm meant to be right now.
Yeah.
That said though, like I think that I would travel way more.
Yeah.
With the idea to like just become more worldly and like see more and understand more and kind of like take in other experiences, but also like get to observe a larger energy exchange.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because we have our worlds, right? And like I mean I am lucky enough, like I do get to travel, like obviously not as much as I would if like money wasn't an issue.
Right.
But like I do believe in an energy exchange just with a one-on-one conversation, with a group class, with like a concert, you know what I mean? Like all of that.
Yes.
I just feel so deeply.
Yeah.
And so I can only imagine what it would be like to get to experience that, like I said, like
with no limitations.
With no limitation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. Well, I want to say thank you again because truly I'm just so grateful that you're here. But I want to give you a second to, you know, plug your social medias, plug Bodied, plug all the things where everyone can find you so that, everyone can follow you after this episode.
Yay. Well, I want to say thank you for having me because I feel the same way. And I know that like every time we do have our little coffee talks, you guys should know this. We literally just like basically tell each other how amazing we think each other is all the time.
And we kind of saved everyone from doing that today, but you know, anyways.
Exactly, but we'll do that later. But no, like same, like I look up to you so much, especially with like this new venture. Like I'm just so proud of you and I'm so honored to be a part of it, truly. And we were just having a conversation in the bathroom earlier about how you need to come back to Bodied.
I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready.
So
yes.
Bodied.
Bodied shirt, batch embodied, all the things.
All the things. Yeah. So Bodied, our Instagram is at Bodied Denver. I believe TikTok's the same. We're like not really on Facebook. I mean, like who is?
Right.
But, like
very weird. Very weird energy these days. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're located in the Sunnyside neighborhood in Denver, 44th and Umatilla. Super great neighborhood. I fell in love with Sunnyside. Like I didn't know much about it before, but now I just can't imagine ever not being over there.
Right.
What else?
And then you. Plug you.
Me. Yes, me. My Instagram is Veronica Marie Peterson, which is hilarious because my name is so long. That's why I go by V.
Yeah. We love that though.
These are hard though. Like I was getting Victoria, Vanessa, Valerie, like literally anything but Veronica. And I was like, let's just go by V. So yeah. So that's me.
Yes. Well, thank you again for being here. I want to thank you all for listening, for joining us on this episode today. I truly hope that you gained something out of it by our conversation and just truly diving into what makes myself and V the people that we are and the journeys that we've gone through to get here. So again, thank you for listening. I want to thank Dude IDK Studios, as always, for allowing us to be here and do this episode with all of you. But in the meantime, keep listening to Cash Talks, and we'll see you again soon. Peace and love.